The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Monday, 7th of March, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,265.40 an ounce, silver $15.62 an ounce, Texas crude $35.92 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 416 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1530, King Henry VIII's request for divorce to Catherine of Aragon is denied by Pope Clement VII. This led to King Henry claiming the title of the supreme head of the Church of England. The Anglican Church had its schism from Rome. Today in history. In recent news, Kyle Andrew Odom, a 30-year-old ex-Marine, is still on the run as of today for the suspected shooting of Idaho minister Tim Remington 6 times right outside of his church yesterday, the Altar Church, where he's a senior pastor. Odom is considered armed and dangerous by police and is believed to be driving a 2004 silver Honda Accord. Luckily, Pastor Remington was upgraded to fair condition today at the Kootenai Health and Medical Center. Though the motive is unknown as of yet, the shooting came a day after Remington delivered an invocation at a rally for Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz. Odom was a flight technician for the Marine Corps from 2006 to 2010 at Camp Pendleton in California. He was awarded an Iraq Campaign Medal with 1 star, according to publicly available documents. A new species of octopus was discovered during a search of the ocean floor by a remotely operated vehicle from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Okeanos Explorer. On February 27th of this year, a team of scientists found a small light-colored ghost-like octopus at a depth of about 2.5 miles by Nucker Island near the Hawaiian Islands. Several scientists agree that this is something unusual and is a depth record for an octopus without fins. Genovation Cars in Rockville, Maryland is now certified by the International Mile Racing Association as constructing the world's fastest street-legal electric car. The all-electric prototype Chevy Corvette, dubbed the Genovation Extreme Electric, or the GX EAS, hit a record-breaking 186.8 miles per hour. The previous record was set at 177 by a finished prototype car. The GXE is based on a 2006 Z06 Corvette, which includes a state-of-the-art battery management system, inverters, batteries, and an electric motor that delivers over 700 horsepower and 600 foot-pounds of torque. The car has a range of 130 miles during normal driving operation on a fully charged battery. This was your lowdown for March 7th, 2016.
All right, good friends, good evening and welcome here on this Super Tuesday 2.0, or Mini Super Tuesday, if you will. That would be the 8th of March, 2016, Tuesday, March 8th. And it's time for INN World Report Radio here on the Logos Radio Network. And my name is Tom Kiley. I've got the great honor of bringing this program to you on Tuesday and Thursday nights. I guess we're in our 8th year now of doing this. It might be the 9th by now. I don't know. You get a little bit confused. I can look that up. But in any case, we're going to have a great show tonight. I was scheduled to have Donald Trump advisor Roger Stone back on the program for the second time tonight, but he's asked if we could postpone it until next Tuesday. So 1 week from tonight, he will be with us. And in the meantime, then, I think it's 1 week from tonight, or on the 24th. I'll look it up and I'll tell you. In the meantime, then, Joe Calhoun, my good friend out in Colorado, might be joining us. But in any case, phone lines are wide open. Let's get down to it. Let's talk about it. Now, I'm going to start having some results to report for you in about, a little less than an hour now, okay, in about 54 minutes or so, 55 minutes. And it's, Michigan and Mississippi, I think, are the two big states. There's a couple of other ones. And let's see what happens. It's been a very interesting, 7 days or so. The Republican establishment is freaking out. and throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at Donald Trump. This is, you'd like to think it's unprecedented, but I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, let me say, let's call. Come on, this is the democratic process. Yes, we live in a republic, I know, but the overarching theme is that it's a democratic process, supposed to be the will of the people to pick their representatives who then represent them. So let's participate in the process here on the program tonight, and let's talk about it. What do you think? It's a very, very interesting year. I say, if you're a longtime listener, you've heard me say this, there is a global revolution going on right now, and the tide is turning, and it is very, very important, friends, to see what's going to happen, all right? And it's around the world. Got really going, I think, in Greece with the Syriza party over there. They were put down pretty strongly for a few reasons. Number one, they were the first one. The first one in the first rank usually is the one who gets shot, right? So, and also it is a smaller country. It is a small part of the European economy. And they got pretty well rifled, I think, by Goldman Sachs as well. They got pretty well eviscerated. And so it was easy to gang up on Greece. But then it started happening in Spain. And a political party sprang up overnight, Podemos. I think they are now like the third most powerful political party in Spain in just a couple of years now. And they're factoring in the government now. They're going to have to be reckoned with. And they are against all of this austerity that's being leveled on the people of Europe, in fact, the people around the world. So, and then it traveled from there to Great Britain, to England. Jeremy Corbyn became the leader of the Labour Party, which is their liberal party. And by the way, before I continue, friends, phone lines are wide open. Give us a ring, 512-646-1984. A lot to talk about. Is Trump Hitler incarnate, Hitler and Mussolini combined on steroids, just waiting to go? Okay. Is he a fool? Is he a fraud like the fraud, in my opinion, Mitt Romney declared him to be? Mitt the loser Romney. Or is he somebody who can make a big difference? Is he somebody who can make a difference? Is he somebody who can grow into the job as well? Sometimes you get the spit, and the spit moves you, right? When people realize the awesome responsibility of the office, it can be transformative. There's no question about it. I think we've seen that happen to John Kennedy, for instance, who really stepped up to the plate. Anyway, all night the phone lines are going to be open, and I want to hear from everybody. Let's talk about it. Are you struggling? Is it interesting? Is it clear to you? I've got some great articles I want to share with you as the evening progresses. And of course, like I said, in less than an hour now, we're going to have some results from I think Michigan. It's a big state, 59 delegates or something like that. So let's all pull up and have a good time. 512-646-1984. I see we've got somebody on the line that's being screened right now, and you can be next. 512-646-1984. Let's hear it. You think I'm all wrong? I got an email today, or I don't know if it was today or the other day, from a listener in Paris, France, who loves the show. Says he's been listening to the show for a long time, but he took me to task for supporting the fascist Trump. And that's okay. Take me to task. I mean, this is about learning. This is all about learning. That's what I'm doing. I am educating myself and hopefully bringing everybody along for the ride. Because you're out there, I've said this many times as well, because you're out there, I can represent to some really, really good people around the world that, the INN World Report listening audience is out there and is an audience that should hear their voices. And a lot of times they come on the show. I've very rarely been turned down by guests since 2002. So what does that make it? 14 years of doing INN World Report. Okay. So we're going to go to Fred in, what is it? Hi, Fred. Are you there?
Yes.
Fred, where are you, up in Maine?
Yeah, Tom.
Are you calling from Maine?
I'm actually calling from Austin, Texas. I have a Mass phone.
Oh, Massachusetts. Okay, well, anyway, thanks for calling, Fred. How you doing?
I'm doing great. One of the things that it's kind of concerning me is just this whole Trump phenomenon a little bit. I think Marco Rubio supporters would think that, he's a good guy. He's not, with the establishment in a bad way. Or Ted Cruz is a good guy. He's saying all the right things, and he's not, with the establishment in a bad way. But I think it's a possibility that Trump is just the ultimate insider. I think the most important thing for a person who wants to be the president is to be a fully compromised insider who appears not to be an insider at all. And I think there's aspects of Trump that make him appear that he is that guy.
Well, he's a relatively unknown commodity when it comes to holding office. That's for sure, because as far as I know, he's never held office. And he is from the oligarchy, albeit I think even though he's a billionaire, I don't think he's a particularly high player in the oligarchy. We have a lot of millionaires here in New York City, a lot more in the last few years. But the big thing is he doesn't need their money, so he can afford to be somewhat independent. And I think at least that's what he's saying, and it makes sense. He's saying things that are so cut into the bone, right, that I can't imagine that. I mean, if he is a phony baloney, it would be incredible. But to go and say weapons of mass destruction was a lie, and the Bush administration knew it was a lie, to go and say W. Bush is responsible for 9/11, it happened on his watch, to intimate toward the 28 pages about the Saudis, to have been on the record about being against the war in Iraq, being against the war in Syria and Libya before these things happened. I could go on and on. It doesn't sound like he's, hell-bent for leather I mean, he could be a big change artist, but it doesn't add up for me. What do you think about those things? Do you think that if he really wanted to make a big dent in the oligarchy, he'd be saying stuff like that?
Absolutely. He'd want to win the confidence of people that are part of the truth or the patriot movement. He'd be straight out of the war room looking to co-opt people who were the previously naysayers, so he could ride in on a lot of the stuff Donald Trump says seems very cryptic, and it's not. They aren't really complete thoughts. Donald Trump was also the guy that jumped in the middle of the Phil Berg, Jerome Corsi, and then lastly, Joel Gilbert argument about the birth certificate stuff, and he became, I would say he's the establishment guy that they let go on the shows touting the birth certificate problem, and I would argue that Trump really messed that up. He made everybody that was a birther look foolish for thinking that, this Obama guy could be a CIA front. He doesn't necessarily have to be born anywhere. He just has to be in on the manipulation, and they'd want a thing to be able to burn him down on, that he wasn't.
But I mean, if that's true, then I think your argument is contradicting itself. If the establishment wanted Barack Obama and he was not legitimate for the office, he was born out of the country and everything else, and if Trump is the ultimate establishment guy, why would he be, assaulting the anointed of the establishment?
Because if he didn't, there'd be some other person that was a real outsider. The other thing is that we do.
I don't know. I think there could have been, Jerome Corsi. I think we've had Jerome Corsi on the show years ago. Right. But I think that any number of people could have done. I don't see him in a competition like he is now to outshout somebody else on that of stature. I don't see anybody who stepped up to the plate on that with his stature.
Well, nobody was allowed on. In other words, I think that Jerome Corsi or Phil Berg could have done a very good job, a much better job than Trump of running the argument. One of the things that Trump says about, to me, I think it's intellectually obvious that what happened in New York was a larger psyop, probably done either with remote control planes or computer graphics and some other stuff. And it's about having winning a license to set our troops down around the world so we can steal resources.
But he was against that. He was on the record as being against that for all these years, since 2003, since before it. He's not a Johnny-come-lately who, is against it now. He was against it in real time, and he was against Libya before it happened, and he's been against Syria as well. And he says he can work with Vladimir Putin. I mean,
no, he says there's a lot of this stuff. If he is faking everybody out, and I think he is, there's a lot of reasons why I think he might build a platform that could make the world a safer place. The thing is, I don't think he's being properly vetted. You and I had an on-air argument a long time about Bill Clinton in 1998 saying, I did not have sex with that woman.
Well, Fred, hold on, because we got to take a break, and then we've got Rob and Chris as well. We'll be right back taking your calls. Open phone tonight, 512-646-1984 all night. Give us a ring.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
All right, good friends, welcome back. Mini Super Tuesday tonight. We should be getting some results for you in about 40 minutes or so. And I'm going to bring them up. I've got the screen on with the mute button going, and so I can see what's going on, and nothing yet. But anyway, it's open mic tonight, open calls. I was scheduled to have Roger Stone on tonight. He had to reschedule. I believe it's next Tuesday. I'll find out for you during the show and let you know for sure. And by the way, on Thursday night, in 2 nights, the return of Stephen Kinzer. He has not been on the show for a long time. Just a great journalist who I respect very much, and author. Okay, let's go back to the phones. Fred. Hi, Fred. Are you there still?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Look, and usually you and I talk, and we could talk for a long time, and I'd love to do that, but I got a couple more callers now. Let me just say this. Well, let me say, you'll have the last word, but I'll just say the following. I know the other ones are liars for sure, and I know what I'm going to get with them and their lies. More wars and more economic destruction in this country and a lot of other countries, and more of this forced immigration to dilute cultures and dilute societies and dilute labor and drag down prices, labor costs, and have people fighting each other instead of the oligarchy. I know I'm going to get that with Hillary Clinton. I know I'm going to get that even with Bernie Sanders to an extent. I know I'm going to get that with any of the Republicans besides Trump. Am I going to get that with Trump too? Maybe. Who knows? But I know I'm going to get it with the other ones.
Okay, I got that, and I can believe it. I think most of your listeners could run a better economic argument than a guy that built casinos and golf courses to take money off the elite and then brags about what a great businessman he is and what he built. A lot of your listeners could probably run a better argument about what needed to be done with our military rather than Donald Trump, wanting to just be the biggest military guy ever.
Look, what they say while they're running, okay? But I voted for Barack Obama the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. He said he was going to shut down Guantanamo, okay? What they say while they're running and what they end up doing, it's part of this, a big part of this is intuition, all right? And, so far, for me, if the election was held tomorrow, I'd vote for Trump. That could change. But the way I see it right now, and I have never voted for a Republican in my life when it came to president, probably nothing else either. I have not always voted Democratic. I voted independent as well. But I would vote for him. But listen, Fred, thank you for calling. As usual, I'd love to talk with you more, but I do have other callers tonight, all right?
Gotcha. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir. Call back. Okay, bye now. All right, now we've got Chris on the line, and we also have Rob, who is a first-time caller. We're going to Rob and then Chris. Oops. Let's see. Here we go. 1 second. Hold on. Go live for Rob. Hi, Rob. Are you there?
Hi, Tom.
Thank you for calling. Is it true that you're a first-time caller to the program?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I had some kind of clever sound effect, but I very much appreciate it. Before you get onto your topic, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been listening to the program, may I ask?
I think I've been listening on and off for a long time, because I got into you through Alex Jones, and then so I've been listening to you probably since you said you had started.
We started on the radio here about 8 years ago. I think it'll be our 9th year. We'll start our 9th year this summer, I believe.
Yeah, I think I've been listening since the inception of your show.
Well, that's great. Okay, I'm sorry for probing like that, but what would you like to talk about? Well, thank you for finally calling, and I hope it's a lot sooner than 8 years from now that you call us back, by the way.
Well, yeah, I've felt conflicted among the, I guess, conspiracy crowd. You're one of the few people who still doesn't put a bad taste in my mouth, I guess. So well, thank you very much. I consider that a high compliment. Sure. Well, I'm just calling to, I guess, give my opinion about this current election. I voted for Bernie. I'm curious to see why you would go with Trump over him.
Well, I think Trump, at least, what he says, and not just now, but what he's been saying since at least 2003, is much, much better than Bernie on foreign policy. Bernie's solution for the wars in the Middle East is for the Saudis to get more involved, presumably to do more of the destruction than we're doing. All right. Trump's solution is we should have never started Iraq, Libya, or Syria. Right. And look at the destruction. Look at the death. not just American death, but 1 million Iraqis at least. Okay. 250,000 or so Syrians now. God knows what's going on in Libya. So I think far and away, Trump is the best when it comes to that sort of thing than any of them, including Bernie. Also, he says, I can work with Vladimir Putin. You know what? I can work with Vladimir Putin, and I bet you could too. All right. And I think most of our listeners could. Russia is a country that is coming back from the abyss. They're good people. They're technical people. They're rediscovering their Christian roots and ethics and so forth. I think it's a great place. I've always liked Russian people. All right. I never bought that stuff. So Trump says he can work. None of the rest of them say that. And why? Because the Council on Foreign Relations won't let them say it. And then finally on Israel itself, I think Bernie is a Zionist. If Trump is a Zionist, I don't know. But he just came out and said, if I'm elected president, I'm going to take a fair and balanced approach toward the Palestinians and the Israelis. You don't have anybody else saying that. So for those reasons, I like him better than Bernie. I think some of Bernie's economic policy for the domestic side is good, very good, better than Trump's maybe. But Trump is pretty good too with trade, taxing Wall Street, tariffs, and that sort of thing. I think he's good. Does that answer your question? In the comparison for me between Bernie and Trump.
Yeah, I've had the same concerns with Bernie Sanders. The fact that he would be supporting Israel, which, in my opinion, has been pretty brutal in terms of their Zionist policies, and the whole concept of Zionism disturbs me. But I guess I'm trying to say to myself, what is more important to me? And in terms of economic policies, I only have first-hand experience with people at home and how people are suffering in terms of job, the economy, our healthcare system. I suffer with chronic pain issues, and I think there needs to be a huge reform of the healthcare system.
Well, Trump says he wants to do that. He wants to reform it and make it better. That's angering the Republican establishment. They screwed that up really bad so that their insurance corporations can make huge profits. They're going after Trump on that.
I see. Well, I would need to see more concrete evidence of that sort of thing, and I'm not sure where I would get that information.
Well, he's talking about it. He says the way he wants to do it is by taking the barriers around the states away so that insurance companies can compete across the country. Right now, it's like fiefdoms. My insurance company has this state and you can't come in. There's no competition. So that's what he says about that. But listen, Rob, thank you for being such a long-time listener, for calling in. I want to get to Chris next. He's been holding on for a really long time. Call back soon. We'll be right back.
You've probably heard of WikiLeaks, the website that's released lots of government documents. But have you heard of the granddaddy of leaks, Cryptome.org? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back with more about how Cryptome holds governments and corporations accountable.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
The website Cryptome.org has been archiving leaked and whistleblower documents for over 14 years to keep governments and big business in check. Back in 2003, the site's owner, John Young, came to my rescue when my SpyChips co-author and I dug up explosive confidential documents. They told how businesses like Procter & Gamble planned to pacify consumers who would be outraged by RFID, a new tracking technology. The information was so scandalous, we were sure it would disappear the moment someone found out it was publicly accessible. We were also worried we might be accused of hacking. Cryptome came to our rescue, and the documents are still mirrored there today. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
And have the free society we all want and deserve.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
right, good friends. Great song, Killing Joke, European Superstate, all about the EU, which is crumbling as we speak. And we could talk about that, too, if you like. 512-646-1984. Open phones tonight. I was supposed to have Roger Stone tonight. He'll be on next week, I think it is. I'll have to check the schedule. Thursday night, Stephen Kinzer, New York Times bureau chief in Berlin, in Central America, covered, I think, the Iran-Contra war down there, and also in Istanbul, Turkey. He's the guy who wrote the fantastic book, All the Shah's Men. If you have not read that book, it's a must read. It's not a thick book. And it is, you'll be on the edge of your seat. The whole thing, he details how we destroyed the beautiful budding democracy in Iran in 1953. But anyway, Chris is on the line. You can be next. 512-646-1984. I'd like to talk about the elections tonight. We've got some announcements for you in about 25 minutes or so, and we'll see what happens in Michigan and Mississippi. All right, let's go to Chris. Hi, Chris. Thank you very much. Let's try this again. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for holding on. We're getting a lot of phone calls tonight. How are you?
Great. Thanks for talking with me. I've been listening to you for a couple of years, and it's been really good for me.
Oh, that's very, very gratifying because, Chris, if you want to know what's in my heart of hearts, that's all I want to do. I want to be good for people. I want to help people feel better because knowledge is power, so that's very, very positive. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yes, and I finally just last week donated to the Logos Network. So,
well, thank you, sir, for that, too. Absolutely.
Sure.
What would you like to talk about, sir?
Well, the election, I'll just quickly say that I became a political activist in 1972 when I resigned from the U.S. State Department to work on George McGovern's presidential campaign. Mm-hmm. Bill and Hillary came to Texas at the same time. We all worked on that campaign. But I voted for Bernie this time in Texas. Uh-huh. But I'm like you. Trump is the guy I think I really want. Uh-huh. So I'm one of those people that Rand Paul was one of my first people I considered, but he's just not strong enough. I need someone more powerful like Bernie or Donald. So I'm still encouraging my Republican friends to vote for Rand or Bernie or Donald, and because Rand's still on the ballot everywhere, and but I'm also encouraging Democratic friends to vote for Bernie because I'm like Jesse Ventura. Those two guys are just breaking up the system, and even Rand has sort of helped crumble the edges of the system. So right now I'm in that let's knock it all down phase, and I don't know what's next.
Well, I think there's no question there's a revolution forming around the world, and so far it is trying to operate within the system. And, when you have revolutions or revolutionary moments, you either get rid of the old system and replace it with something new, or you have the reactionaries, the old system, shuts down the revolution, or you have reform. It's got to be one of the three, where for its survival, the bad stuff in the system gets cleaned out and the system remains, but it's been purified somewhat. So it's going to be one of those three things.
Yes.
Let's see. And reform is fine for me. Revolution, ultimate revolution. I'm not so sure about that because meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You can end up in the fire if you jump out of the frying pan. I certainly don't want to see the status quo, not just remain in power, but where they're taking us is a bad, bad place. So they need to be stopped. We need reform, or, I think we may have to start considering upgrading to something more modern,
Well, let me just recommend, a lot of your listeners probably have basic Netflix. There's the movie Fidel that's on there for free. And since Obama's going to, we have an embassy now. We opened our embassy. We have an ambassador thing going on. And so I think a lot of people should look at that right now so they'll see the dark side of the U.S. Operations.
Is that the one that had Benicio del Toro in it?
No, he plays Che.
He is in it, but he plays Che Guevara, right? Or was that in a different film?
I don't know if he's in the Fidel movie playing Che or not, but Che's a minor character in the Fidel movie. But the Che movie
must have been a different film then.
Well, and they're both magnificent, but that takes you into armed conflict, and I mean they have armed conflict to get rid of Batista and drive out the U.S. in Fidel, but it's different. It's really different. So,
well, on your recommendation, I'm going to take a look at it.
Yeah.
It sounds very interesting. Did you ever? Stephen Kinzer's coming on the show next show on Thursday night. Have you ever read any of his books?
No, sir. No.
I can recommend. Well, he's written a number of great ones. He specializes in U.S. regime change operations. The first of which was against the Iranian people in 1953. And there's been many since then. Actually, I shouldn't say the first. When he includes taking over Hawaii in there and the Philippines as well, but that wasn't quite the same. And his book, All the Shah's Men, it's not a thick book, but it is a real page turner. And you get to see the perfidy, how we hired crowds and we paid off editors and we totally fooled the Iranian people into thinking that the majority of their fellow citizens couldn't stand their government when in fact they loved their government.
And we learned how to do that from the British.
Absolutely.
The whole big British Empire thing. That's another thing. I want to recommend Tina Fey's new movie, Whiskey Tango Bravo.
Oh, yeah. Is that good? I've seen the advertisements for it.
They take it back to the British Empire. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, everybody's waking up, Tom, and you're doing a great job, and I'll let you get on to your next caller.
Well, thank you, sir, and please call back sooner rather than later. We got quite a way to go till November. It's going to be very interesting.
It's really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. And thank you for the great pat on the back there. It really helps. I'm doing this to help us all, give us the tools to feel better. So when you tell me that, it makes me feel like I'm on the right track.
Well, political activists now have the tools, and you're one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. All right, good friends. Chris in Texas, you can be next, 512-646-1984. We don't have another caller at the moment, so you can get right through. So give us a ring. The Donald Trump phenomena, it is, it's not really the Donald Trump phenomena. It is a worldwide revolution, and Donald Trump was smart enough to step up to the plate, and he's riding that wave. It's not the other way around, okay? Donald Trump did not produce the conditions upon which he sits, all right? But he's stepping up to the plate. It would be somebody else if they were articulate. Look at Bernie Sanders, all right? Or powerful, like Chris said. Was it Chris or was it Rob? I think Rand Paul is good, but he obviously didn't. I think he tried it. His problem was he's trying to do it from the inside of the establishment. They're not going to let him. Trump's coming from the outside. Bernie kind of coming from the outside. So I think that's what's required here, And I'm getting articles. The rest of the world is taking notice. At first, the publicity machine, the PR machine, the propaganda machine was aimed at Trump, and that's wearing off. People are starting to take notice. I'm getting emails from people in other countries saying, wow, this Trump thing could be real. And guess who's upset about it? Benji Netanyahu is not too thrilled with Donald Trump. He's seen in Israel as totally wrecking their unshakable grip on the Republican Party. I got a great article that I'll read to you if there's no more callers for a while. But why don't you call in 512-646-1984. He is shaking it up. And some talk show hosts, talk radio, people I totally disagree with, I'm in agreement with. This is a transpartisan moment. The country could very well be coming together. First, the vanguard, but hopefully it'll be a lot more after that. Tom Kiley, INN World Report, right back after this. Give us a ring, 512-646.
Easy.
Good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio. And the phone lines are open tonight. We're expecting some election results for you in about 13 minutes in Michigan, at least. I'm not sure about, excuse me, I'm not sure about what time Mississippi, I think, is also voting tonight, what time they're going to close. But certainly Michigan, I think, in about 13, 12 minutes now. We'll have that news for you as soon as we can pass it on. The phone lines are open. Roger Stone was going to be with us tonight, but he's asked to postpone, so he'll be here. I think it's next Tuesday. I'll verify that for you during the next break. And the phone lines are open, 512-646-1984, and I'd like you to call in. and talk about. We're talking about the elections and stuff. Am I off base? Some people think I'm off base because I'm not scared of Trump. Well, I'm not. And I'd be happy to be scared of Trump if I should be scared of Trump, and I'm open to your suggestions, and you're welcome to give it a shot. Okay, and if you make sense to me, maybe I'll start being scared of Trump. If not, I don't be offended if I don't go along with it. But listen, we can talk, right? We're free to talk. When I don't want you to talk, that's a bad sign. But we talk here to a lot of people. Now, I'm going to take an aside for a moment while I'm waiting for the next caller. Since the last program, I got some sad news. New York attorney William Schaap, Bill Schaap, passed away a few days ago. He lived in Greenwich Village on West 4th Street by my subway stop that I used to go to for years when I went to work in that neighborhood. And he was an amazing person. Both he and his wife, Ellen Ray, who passed away last May, okay? So sometimes that's what happens when two people are so close together. I think Bill was 75. Let me tell you about my friend Bill Schaap, all right? Just a real beautiful human being, and Ellen, his wife. The two of them were like a real male-female energy team in the world, and they made my world a lot more beautiful. No question about it. Bill Schaap was a young hotshot lawyer on Wall Street, and so I believe, as the story goes, somebody asked him to get involved in a political case or something, and he helped somebody out, and he changed his life. This case changed his life, and he got involved in representing the underrepresented, representing the politically oppressed, and he and his wife Ellen went for it with a gusto. Okay, with a real gusto. And during the Vietnam War, they traveled the world, the two of them, to represent GIs and sailors and Marines who were being, who were enemies of the state, were being put up on charges that they didn't deserve to be put up on, or that had some political edge to them. And they were representing people, Black Panthers on aircraft carriers and stuff. And they were traveling around, and that's where I met them. As a young GI, myself, in West Berlin, Germany. I got involved in 1973, I think it was, 74, I'm sorry. In 1974, I got involved in a protest action, and I ended up being in violation of some of the Army's regulations, and they wanted to give me an Article 15 in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The point is that the government cannot hand out punishment to citizens unless there's been a trial. And in the military, there'd be nothing but trials because there's so many rules and the rules contradict each other that it would take up too much time to give everybody a trial for their offense. So the military came up with this article number 15, which says, you know what, if you waive your right to a trial and accept, our verdict, then, we'll go easier on you than you would have gotten if you went through with the trial and were found guilty. That's the system. Well, they wanted me to do that, and I refused. I demanded a court-martial, and me and about four other guys in Berlin. And on my defense team was Bill Schaap, young Bill Schaap, working for the LMDC, Lawyers for Military Defense Committee, I think they were called. It was a branch of the ACLU, I believe. So I met Bill as a young guy. I must have been about 20 years old, and he was there in Europe, in Berlin, defending me and some of my other guys. He was part of a team. There was a couple of other lawyers as well that were pretty good guys. And I met him and Ellen there. Well, I ended up going and having a court-martial, and then I was found guilty, which we expected. I didn't contest it. I said what I did. I did what I did. And it was the craziest thing, friends. It was over a haircut, okay? It's a long story. But one day my hair started touching my ears, and the entire system freaked out and ordered me to get my hair cut. And when I didn't do it, I just, the whole world blew up. And there's a lot more to it than that. I can tell the story sometime if you would like. So that's how I met Bill Schaap. I ended up getting kicked out of Berlin. I was the only GI who didn't go to jail for it because I was able to explain why I was doing it. I was actually doing it for the betterment of the military. Back in those days, you could tell a GI a mile away, all right? Everybody our age had long hair, mustaches, beards, that sort of thing. It was the height of the hippie era. So as a result, you were ostracized. You were isolated. My first 6 months in the Army were no more than about 28 miles away from where I grew up. I was at Fort Dix in New Jersey, about 28 miles away, and then directly east at Fort Monmouth for my training, only about 10, 15 miles away. So I spent my first 6 months in the Army right in my home area, and I'd go to the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, and suddenly I was treated like a jerk because of my hair, So, and a lot of drugs were involved in those days, and I thought it would be better for the young guys to be able to go associate. Now it's not a problem because you can't tell the difference between a rock star and a GI right now, okay? The styles have changed, all right? But in those days, we had guys who wouldn't go out of the barracks, called them barracks rats. They were getting hooked on heroin. It was a bad deal. Anyway, Bill Schaap was part of my defense team. I got thrown out of Berlin out to West Germany. I spent my last year out in West Germany at Landstuhl at the 2nd General Hospital. I was a photolab technician there for a medical illustration detachment. It was a great job. It was like MASH. You could literally get high on hash with an officer at that location, let me tell you. Okay. Somebody just happens to know that. And it was really a cool place. And Bill Schaap and Ellen Ray had an apartment in Heidelberg, which was only a 1-hour drive back east of me toward the Rhine River, toward Frankfurt. And so I used to go visit them on the weekends in Heidelberg. Now, Heidelberg is an amazing town, beautiful town, a lot of history there. Students are there, 600-year-old universities there. The American Medical Command had its headquarters there. All right. And so that was a cool group of people. And then there's a lot of tourists there. So between the GIs, the tourists, and the students, it was a real swinging place. And it's a really beautiful, beautiful town. Anybody who wants to go there, let me know. I can give you some pointers on it. And Bill and Ellen had an apartment there in the old city next to the Neckar River. Really great. I mean, oh my goodness, the nightlife there was amazing. So I used to go and hang with them on the weekends. I'd crash on their floor. And there were student riots and protests that we saw. We had a lot of interesting experiences. I ended up buying myself a Fiat. The train ticket was costing me too much. It was taking an hour and a half on the train anyway. I bought myself a little Fiat for $200, and I drive out there. So one night, just to give you an idea, I just had this amazing experience. We were on the other side of the river. It comes out of the mountains, the Neckar River, and we were up on the side of the mountains there. There's a path up there called the Philosopher's Way, where the professors used to take their students to teach them, when the weather was nice, overlooking this gorgeous ancient city across the river. And we'd hang out up there. We built a little fire. We brought a bunch of wine with us and some bratwurst to cook and stuff. And, you're looking on the town. It's a summer night, gorgeous. You had sleeping bags and stuff. And this is Bill Schaap and Ellen Ray and some friends of ours. And there was a couple of an American guy who was a civilian and a beautiful young woman from Hamburg, as I recall. They went off in the woods and they came back. And they were giddy. They were laughing. And they said, come on, we found this incredible thing. You got to come with us. And we thought it was crazy. We didn't want to go. But they were so insistent. They dragged us into the forest, up the mountain, in the pitch black. And it became like a Midsummer's Night's Dream. We couldn't believe it. And they stopped and they said, no, we're not close enough yet. And we were, what are these people doing? Where are they taking? Because everybody had been drinking and probably smoking and that sort of thing. So finally, at one point, they stopped and they said, listen. And in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the pitch blackness, in the middle of the night, you could hear Pink Floyd. And now we thought, oh my goodness, these people are onto something. And they kept dragging us. We came up the mountain. And we came to a clearing, and there was an ancient amphitheater there. Looked like something from the Greeks or the Romans. And there were fires all the way up the steps. And there was a stereo blasting the Moody Blues into the night. It looked like something from Wagner. It was absolutely amazing, like the Valkyries or something were going to come. And that was probably one of the first raves. It was the students. They used to bring a stereo up there. They sell beers. They sell bratwursts. And you just went up the steps of the amphitheater, found yourself a little spot, built a little fire, and hung out with everybody in your sleeping bag and listened to this great music and party with people all night long. That's the kind of thing I remember with Bill Schaap and Ellen Ray. And they started Covert Action Quarterly. I mean, they went on, and great people. In fact, Bill Schaap did the 501c3 work for INN World Report to get us our tax-exempt status when we first started. So thank you, Bill Schaap. Thank you, Ellen Ray, and I'm sure we will have happy days again. Tom Kiley, INN. We're going to have some results for you right after this break. Give us a call, 512-646-1984. All right, good friends. We're back. Listen, I was just chit-chatting with Deborah there. The results are coming in. Hillary Clinton wins in Mississippi, and Donald Trump is projected to win in Mississippi by a handy margin, probably about 10 points or so above Ted Cruz. Little Marco Rubio is tied with Kasich, the governor of Ohio, in Mississippi at 7% apiece. So little Marco is being cut back down to size. And and it looks like his support is going to Cruz more than Trump. But that's what we have so far. Now, on the other side of the fence, Hillary Clinton is projected to win in Mississippi. I guess we have to wait another hour for Michigan. Okay, so sorry about that. I was hoping to be able to tell you Michigan. I think Donald Trump will do very well in Michigan as well. But Mississippi was the first of the two big states tonight. So there you have it. 512-646-1984, open phones. And while I'm waiting for somebody to call, I'm going to go back to talking about the election a little bit. I want to finish up that story about Donald Trump, about Bill Schaap and Ellen Ray. A wonderful couple, really illuminated my life. And I have some incredible memories as a young guy in Germany back in the day. I spoke German. I just loved it. I went downtown and I mingled with Germans and tourists and other people traveling through Europe. It was an amazing time. And that night was just absolutely fantastic. It turns out that, I don't know if you're familiar, you go to Google Earth or go to even Google Maps or something and go take a look at Heidelberg, Germany. Okay. Heidelberg is on the Neckar River as it comes down out of these rolling hills and opens out onto the flat Rhineland-Pfalz, the plain by the Rhine River. And the Neckar goes on to connect with the Rhine River at Ludwigshafen, I believe, or near there, not too far west from there. But it comes down out of the hill. So the old part of the city, if you can imagine, make the V for victory sign and imagine that your fingers are two ridges of nice high hills, almost, little mountains. And in between your fingers, the Neckar River is flowing, and it goes out and spreads out, and then it comes out onto the plain. That's where the old city of Heidelberg is. And they have a beautiful old bridge across. They have a few bridges across it, but the old bridge is across, and the castle is up on the south bank of the river. And on the the north bank of the river is their homes up there, and there's a walkway up there, but you got to climb up all these steps to get up there. But once you're up there, you're looking down on the city. It's gorgeous. It's almost like you're in an airplane, flying low. And toward the end, let's just say, if you make the V for victory sign with your right hand, your pointer finger, which is closer to you, that's the side that the castle and the town is on. And the other side is much more sparsely populated. But if you cross that river and you walk toward the end of that fingertip, at the end of the hill where it sort of goes down, on the top of that hill, they called it the Holy Mountain, the Heiligenberg. And in prehistoric times, the Celts had it as a holy site up there. And I don't know, I think they may have even done human sacrifices and stuff up there. But in Christian times, subsequently, they made a monastery out of it. A lot of times the ancient pagan holy sites were taken over. And they made a Christian monastery about 1,200 years ago up there. And there's the ruins of that monastery up there also, rich with history. So that monastery sits at the top of the hill. Below it, as you go down from there, you're standing on the edge of this bowl, which is an amphitheater. Now, in that part of the world, they have this red stone, this red clay, so it's built with these blocks of red stone. And the first time I saw it, I didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, I knew I was looking at an amphitheater, but I thought, is this left over from the Romans or something? Well, I did my homework, and it turns out the Nazis had built it in the 30s for political rallies. They were really big on these, torchlit political rallies, and that's what it was for. And there's pictures of it as these things. So it was a dramatic place. And I suppose they had other dramatic presentations there as well, maybe plays, maybe Wagner, maybe opera, maybe music. But it was perfectly built. The acoustics were incredible. And I know this because, we hung out there that night, and it turns out the students, the Heidelberg students were doing events there every weekend in the summertime. So I'd come and just go there. I'd stay at Bill and Ellen's house, and I'd go out there and spend Saturday night up on the hill, with the students. And if you climb to the top of the amphitheater, then you could go up into the woods even further to the top. And then there was the ruins of this ancient monastery, and there were campfires going in there too. So you're meeting, in those days, people were hitchhiking all over Europe, and hippies were everywhere. And it was really something, we can't imagine it today that you just, millions of kids just hitchhiking all around. I used to pick the hitchhikers up. I used to hitchhike myself. nobody was afraid of anything or anybody. And you met people and you became friends and stuff, and you shared a bottle of wine or whatever. And that's the way it went. And that was some of my memories of Bill Schaap and Ellen Ray. Now I can say this because, the next morning you wake up and, you find yourself halfway up the side of these steps on this If anybody wants to see it, send me an email, info@innradio.com. I've been there subsequently with my camera and took some great pictures, and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. But and you can find it on Google Earth too, I'm sure, or even maybe in Google Maps if you go to the satellite picture, if you go to the Heiligenberg across the river from Heidelberg. But that morning, somebody had a little transistor radio down on the stage of the amphitheater. We were almost at the top, and you could hear it crystal clear. It was really something. The Germans are big on technology. So anyway, 512-646-1984. Give us a ring. Now, while I'm waiting for somebody to call, because I don't see anybody on the screen here, let me share with you some articles that I think are very, very interesting, okay, in The Guardian. Now, The Guardian is kind of a lefty paper from England. A lot of people feel it's compromised and it's controlled by their MI6, but in any case, here's a headline in The Guardian. Not even my wife knows. Secret Donald Trump voters speak out. We asked Guardian readers who are voting for Trump why they supported him. From firm conservatives to fed-up liberals, their answers were revealing. So the Hispanic attorney, 29 years old in Florida, quote, he has demonstrated that he is at heart a caring person. On paper, I probably look like a guaranteed Cruz or Rubio vote. I'm a millennial woman. My parents immigrated from Castro's Cuba. I work as a trial attorney in Miami, and I'm a born-again Christian. But I'm voting for Donald Trump. And I've convinced all my friends and family to do so as well. My sister worked for him and has spoken glowingly of him for years, just like everyone else who actually knows the man. I trust her judgment more than any random pundits at all. Okay, actions speak louder than words, and he's demonstrated that he is at heart a caring person through his many random acts of kindness. All right, so there's a Hispanic woman, 29 years old. What else? The scientist who likes both Bernie and Donald. He's 48 years old in California. Quote, I'm very concerned about radical Muslims. I moved to San Francisco from the United Kingdom in 2000. I'm a citizen now, and I voted for Obama. I'm a closet Trump supporter, and I haven't told any of my friends or coworkers. They would think of me as a meathead if they knew. The funny thing is I like Trump and Sanders, and there's no party or politician for me. I'm pro-abortion, pro-equal pay for women. I'm pro-gay marriage. Hold on a second. Yeah, let me get back to that one. I mean, that's a liberal. The liberals are having they're freaking out about this kind of stuff. All right. Well, we can go on, and we will. The Occupy protester turned Trump supporter, 24 years old in New York. His candidacy is ripping the soul of America apart. We deserve it. I work in a liberal arts department. I've read the works of Karl Marx, Herbert Marcuse, John Stuart Mill, Friedrich Nietzsche, Plato, Judith Butler, Simone de Beauvoir, Michael Foucault, and so on. I am more inclined to listen to what Savojik or Noam Chomsky have to say about current affairs than Rachel Maddow or Bill O'Reilly. If one were to take account of my demographics, the smart money would peg me for a Bernie Sanders supporter. My interest in politics did not truly develop into an intellectually mature form until 2011, when Occupy Wall Street broke out as a populist leftist grassroots movement to combat the evils of unrestricted robber baron capitalism. Anyway, that's somebody going for Trump. All right, let's see if I got any more calls yet. Not yet. Okay, so all right, it's okay. Come on here, mouse. My mouse is not cooperating. All right, what do we got here? All right, here we go. All right, so what else? The casino supervisor, 56 years old in Oklahoma. We are completely tired of government. I'm a Democrat, but I'll vote for Trump because he's not bought and paid for by anyone. Guy says he never voted Republican. Yoga teacher, 29 years old in Tennessee. Don't publish my name. It would ruin my progressive image. Barack Obama talked about hope and change, but I believe he failed to deliver on his promises. His record with drone strikes and prosecutions of whistleblowers are especially troubling, not to mention he didn't follow through with prosecutions of those who caused the financial crisis. So there's a yoga teacher who voted for Obama, voting for Trump. Retired biomedical engineer, 56-year-old in Hawaii. It's too late for a cure. He's voting for Trump. You ready for this? The gay Arab Muslim student, 20 years old in Missouri, My parents are horrified. As a gay Muslim, the Republican Party has not been kind to me, to say the least. However, the Democrats almost arrogantly expect me to hand my vote to them because of who I am, which insults me. I am a son of immigrants, but we have always followed the law to the letter. This is what I say, friends. This is what I say. Illegal immigration hurts legal immigrants when it comes to working and jobs. And legal immigrants, like my grandparents who came here from Sicily and worked hard, okay, and did it by the rules and did it by the law, all right? They know how difficult it is and what a sacrifice it is to wait online, wait your turn, okay? So don't be so quick to think that, everybody's just hunky-dory with illegal immigration. They're not, okay? I even support the temporary ban on Muslims, says the gay Muslim kid who's voting for Trump. Even though I still have many law-abiding family members in Syria who deserve their opportunity to come to the U.S. and escape the horrors of war, we don't vet these people properly to let them in willy-nilly. It is ludicrous. Okay? Trump will break the poisonous bonds that hold America and the cult state of Saudi Arabia. All right? How about that? Anyway, we got some music playing. I can hear that. So I think it's time to take a break, but my computer is not cooperating with me.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
All right, good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley here, INN World Report Radio on Mini Super Tuesday or Super Tuesday 2.0, whatever you want to call it. Trump is projected to win Mississippi by a handy margin, about 10% or so over Ted Cruz. And Hillary Clinton is projected to have won Mississippi. Let's see. And I just get some projections now about Michigan, and that's interesting. Bernie Sanders is projected to win Michigan right now. As it's going over Hillary Clinton, which is very interesting. However, Donald Trump is neck and neck in Michigan with guess who? John Kasich. This would be the first time Kasich came in second place, I think. Trump is only leading Kasich by 3/10 of a percentage point, 35.6 to 35.3. Polls close at 9 o'clock. But I think they only have 3% of the precincts coming in yet. Now, meanwhile, with the Democrats, 12% of the precincts coming in, it is Bernie Sanders at 51.9%, Hillary Clinton at 47.1%. So that's very interesting because that is a big Rust Belt state, obviously, Flint, Michigan, the auto industry, and Bernie Sanders' a message on economics, obviously, is got a lot of ears there. Hillary Clinton, status quo, wife of the guy who brought you NAFTA and GATT and all that stuff. People are not ready to go with her on that. So very, very interesting. That's what's going on. So anyhow, 512-646-1984. Give us a ring. Like to hear what your thoughts are. Look, I'm open. You all been listening to me for years. I try to think about things. For me, I got to tell you, friends, a huge issue for me is the lives and the countries and the societies and the families and the cultures that we are destroying around the world, particularly in the Middle East, and now it's going to be more and more in Africa as well, and now even in Europe. Great Europe. I live there. I love Europe. I love European culture. I love the different cultures of the world. I love the different peoples. I love the different religions. I love the different languages. I love the different way people dress. I love the different foods. I love the different seasons. Viva la différence, okay? If the world was one homogenized lump, you would have the same thing no matter which direction you traveled in, north, south, east, or west, okay? And even in the United States, where we share a common language, currency, and, general culturally similarities, there's still differences from state to state, place to place. And oligarchy wants to eliminate that. It wants to eliminate that. It wants everybody to be the same, everybody to have the same, everybody to be predictable, everybody to think the same thoughts, everybody to eat the same food, speak the same language, watch the same TV shows. That's what oligarchy is all about. You think about it. Think about it. It's like, I don't know how many of you all bake, okay? Or how many of you all had a loving parent who baked, or sister or mother or brother or chef in the family who baked, okay? But when people bake with real ingredients, okay, and if it's stuff that you grew out back, it's even better, okay? But you take the trouble to feed your family, to put love into your food, right? And I know a lot of you all know what I'm talking about, especially the people out there who cook for their family. I cook for my family, and I just love it when I give my wife a healthy dish of something to eat that's got good food, it's natural, and she likes it, and she smiles at me. She says, this is better than what we get in the restaurant. I just love it. And I'm giving the universe to my family, my loved ones, because that's what we do. We fly through the universe mouth first. But what I'm trying to say is, the difference when somebody bakes a cookie for you, okay? I like oatmeal raisin. Oatmeal is really good for you, okay? When somebody puts ingredients together from scratch, that's culture. That's the world. And when you open up a package of cookies from the supermarket, they kind of look the same when you first look at them, but as you get closer and you feel them, you taste them, you break them, that's not the same. It is a big hopper someplace that they're dumping truckloads of stuff in, and machines are mixing it all up. And if you think they're going to waste a penny per pound on something when they can get a cheaper ingredient somewhere else, or a GMO ingredient or whatever, all right? Yeah, it kind of looks like a cookie, but it's vastly different. That's where they want to take the world. That's where they want to take the world. Faux everything. Fake everything. All right? It looks like food. It'll kill you. All right? They make cheese in France and beautiful local cultures. They've been doing it for 1,000 years in some cases. Wines, if you drink wine, okay? Vegetables that are in certain areas and stuff. Russia has declared itself to be a GMO-free country. Europe wants to be. They're fighting the oligarchy on this. This is where they want to take us. No. There needs to be local cultural integrity, in my opinion. All right? That's what we're up against. And the people are starting to react. No, they don't want to throw Europe out. They don't want to turn Europe into a big mosh pit, something like that. Let's see. I think we got some callers coming in here. I'm not sure. 512-646-1984. But that's what we're voting on, friends. Okay, we've had right and left, and hats off to the Republicans. Hats off to the Republicans, because they're waking up first. A lot of Democrats are waking up too, but not nearly as much as I see on the Republican side, and that's fine. Now, I was telling you before, I've been driving around lately. I don't drive that often these days, but I've been driving around. I got the talk radio on, the conservative talk radio, and I cannot believe what I'm hearing. Okay. The television, they're sort of tepid. They work for the establishment. The radio, talk radio is a little bit different. Michael Savage, this guy is like, there's a good name from Savage, because I totally disagree with so many of the things he has to say. But you know what? He and I are on the same page with Donald Trump. He's thrilled. He is shaking it up. He is shaking up the establishment. And he says when the establishment is threatened, what we see them doing to Donald Trump, it's not unprecedented. They did it to Barry Goldwater in 1964. They would rather lose. Okay, and they did it to Ronald Reagan. They did it to Ronald Reagan first in what? What was it? When did he run the first time? In 1976, right? And then they did it to him again in 1980. But in 1980, it was Ronald Reagan who prevailed over H.W. Bush. And what happened in the first weeks of his presidency? They tried to kill him. And how many of you remember that? And it was a guy named Hinckley who was a friend of the Bush family who pulled the trigger, supposedly. The guy they got, the MK Ultra wingnut that they got. And so last week, Mitt Romney, and we got Fred on the line. I'm going right to Fred in a second. Last week, Mitt Romney is admonishing the Republican voters, wagging their finger. You're doing the wrong thing. You're not following instructions. You're not to vote for Donald Trump. You're not allowed. He's a phony. He's a fraudster. He's going to wreck everything. Mitt Romney, of all people, telling everybody. And what does he do? He's telling this to everybody at Hinckley University. Hinckley University. And there's a big sign about Hinckley University. Red, like blood, Several people caught that. One second. How about that? Is that a message? Hey, Donald Trump, people shouldn't be voting for you, but, in case they do, we got Hinckley University. Same name as the guy, who's spelled different, but same name as the guy who tried to kill Ronald Reagan. 512-646-1984. Fred, we're back to Fred again. Hi, Fred, is that you? Are you there?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call again, Tom.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. Hang on. We got the break. We'll get you right back after the break. 512-646-1984. You can be next, friends. We got a little bit more time. Yeah, so Fred's on the line, and this will be interesting. The second time he's calling in tonight. So you could call too, 512-646-1984. Fred's next, and then maybe we'll be you.
The Soviets were known for interrogating people in back rooms. Those days may be past, but they gave rise to some high-tech tools being used by Russian companies today. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back with details.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Back in the Cold War days, Agent 007 might have been seduced into giving up his secrets to a hot Russian spy. But fast forward a few decades, and today he might be fessing up to a cold-hearted machine, an ATM machine to be exact. The Russian bank Sberbank is rolling out a high-tech ATM machine that uses 3D facial recognition, a passport scanner, and voice analysis. The machine asks questions like, do you have a job, or do you have unpaid bills? Then a lie detector evaluates the customer's voice for nervousness. Creepily, the voice analysis was developed using recordings of people undergoing police interrogations. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Something wrong! Man, I smell something wrong. Something wrong! I don't think I'll be around here long.
Maybe we can say that about the Republican establishment. Something's wrong. Maybe I won't be around here very long. I think that's Junior Watson. And maybe Donald Trump ought to have him opening up his shows. Donald Trump is packing them in. There are huge numbers of Republicans turning out. They haven't seen this in a long time, more than the Democrats. And it's because there's crossover people. There's a lot of Democrats that are crossing over and voting. Okay? And I know people here in New York who are registered Democrats are going to switch to vote for Trump in the primaries. Okay? So how about that? And he is bringing life back to the Republican Party. He may save the Republican Party, reform it, go back to the party of Lincoln as it started. Okay? Before the oligarchs took it by the throat. All right, so now the numbers are coming in. Trump is projected to win Mississippi, and now he's starting to pull away from John Kasich in Michigan. Now the last thing I saw on CNN here, he had 37% of the vote to Kasich's something like 31 or something like that, or 33 or something. So he's starting to pull ahead. It was 35-35, but there was only 3% of the precincts. So Donald Trump is the winner now in Mississippi. They've got that locked up. And it is a projection, but I guess they have enough that they can declare that. So there you go. Anyway, all right, Fred's on the line. We're going to go to Fred. You can be next, 512-646-1984. I'm sorry, Fred. I just didn't want to start with that break just going up. How you doing again?
I'm doing okay again. You brought up the Hinckley shooting of Reagan again.
Yep.
What to me was so interesting about that, if you had Roger Stone on, I think he would have told you that there was another shooter. I think that's in his book. And if there were two shooters and it's a deep state thing, then there's no reason for Hinckley to even be at the scene. There's only reason for someone that looks like him that to be set up to be him so he can be stuck in the mental institution and told, you tried to roll over on your family and expose deep state activities that your family was involved in, and now you got to go, over here and be rehabilitated.
Well, no, they have to have a patsy in the right place to make it look like it was a lone gunman. Sure, they got multiple shooters, of course, but that's the way it works. And as in the case with Sirhan, they scrambled his brains first in an MK Ultra type situation. They make him a zombie. Show up at this time. Take a gun with you. Point the gun.
Yep. Why do you think that if people are in on it, like if the Secret Service are in on it, why do they even need to do that? They can just, when they can have an imposter play the part of the, one of two gunmen and then just tell Hinckley that he did it after you drug him. I mean, there's no.
No, you have to send everybody in the opposite direction on the investigation. So you need a stand-in. It's an old Sicilian trick with the mafia. You know, they tell somebody owes the Don a lot of money, so he has to do favors for him. So they say, hey, I want you to deliver this gun tomorrow night. You know, at 9:00, be out front of this guy's house. You know, so he goes with the gun to deliver the gun. He has to, because if he doesn't do what they say, he owes the money. They're going to kill him, or they're going to beat him up, or they're going to hurt his family. So he goes, and then bang, in front of the guy's house, somebody's dead. The cops show up, and there's a guy standing there with a gun. You know, this is ancient. You need to deflect blame in a plausible direction so that the deep state activity remains secret.
What I'm saying is they could have a person that looked like Hinckley shooting at him. Another guy that actually delivers the shots that count, and they've got something on video record that looks like John Hinckley shot the president.
But why not just have Hinckley himself? Why not screw him up with MK Ultra type stuff, drugs, hypnosis, electroshock, brainwashing, brain scrambling, which they developed intensely during the 50s and 60s. Why not just do that to him for some reason? You know, there are some people who say, now, Hinckley came from a connected family. They were friends of the Bushes. You know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And as far as I heard, they also worked in the missionary movement in Central and South America and maybe Africa, which is also a very well-known CIA front for a lot of stuff. But sometimes they say that certain people are made to give up members of their family. Maybe they're compromised. Maybe they need to prove their loyalty. Maybe whatever. Maybe they got a bad actor in their family who's going to spill the beans or whatever. So, you know, who knows?
Exactly. People become very idealistic, some of them, in going into their early 20s, and they would have known that their family was deep state connected, and they might not have liked it, and the family may have had to deal with it. And that family member may have rolled over inside other intelligence operatives and talked about how bad our families are and caused a rift, and where to silence the one person, to silence everybody around that one person, you've got to make it look like they did something terrible and that you've got a reason to put them in a mental institution.
Well, you know, they have a reason to put them in a mental institution because, you know, sometimes, you know, they have so many ways to do this, all right? You know, Ewan Cameron, you ever heard or read about Ewan Cameron? There's a good movie about him, too, that they made in Canada. You ever heard about him?
Yeah.
Ewan Cameron, Dr. Ewan Cameron from Canada.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen. When he in the 50s, the CIA was throwing money all over the place to psychologists and psychiatrists. They were interested in mind control stuff. Ewan Cameron put a proposal together. They loved it. They funded him. He said, I can totally wipe somebody's mind out. And he did it with electroshock. He did it with hypnosis. He did it with forcing people into comas and having them with headphones on for weeks at a time, listening to stuff that, you know, programmed them and whatnot. And he was a witch doctor. He was a creep. And he got money to do this. Well, a woman went to the hospital with her husband for postpartum depression. Should have been handled very easily. And Ewan Cameron was her doctor and said, you know what? This is, you know, we can cure you, but it's going to take a few weeks. And she said, okay. And they signed it. And then they scrambled her brain so bad, she turned into a vegetable. She didn't know she was married, much less recognize her husband. Okay. They ruined that woman. And she's still around today. She tells her story. You know, she had to relearn who she was. So they've been doing this for a really, really long time. Sirhan, same thing. Okay. What was that guy's name? Jolly West, Dr. Jolly West. Same guy who dealt with the Boston Strangler, dealt with Sirhan. And I think Hinckley's brother. Way back with Bobby Kennedy. I think it was Hinckley's brother. They were dealing with him too. So, you know, even if you have a headache and you go into the hospital and you know, for whatever reason they want to, they dose people with LSD. There's a famous story, a guy here in New York, they ruined his life. He was in Paris. He was a budding art student. And they don't know if they targeted him or if he just pissed off some CIA guys one night in a bar, but they dosed him with acid and it ruined his life.
Okay, that can happen, but if something is set out to be a psyop in front of the public, the information of the original psyop and the information that funnels out afterwards, none of it necessarily needs to be true. What's the easiest way to do it? You know, you've got a guy.
Yeah, no, I got that, but why? If that's the case, let's just say it really wasn't Hinckley. Why make it somebody who's that close to the president or vice president? I mean, why does it need to be not really Hinckley? Isn't that an extra layer of complexity that could expose the whole thing as a psyop?
Well, I would argue that they needed to shut two people up. Ronald Reagan inherited Jimmy Carter's crisis there, and he was talking about going on back on the gold standard. Nobody would tell him how much gold was in Fort Knox, and he got really upset about it. And he pointed people to try to dig that information out and get through why, as the president, no one would tell him. And he started running his mouth in some places where he couldn't, and at the same time, you've got a intelligence family son that's not playing ball with.
Yeah, but I think it's just an extra layer of complexity. You can knock that intelligence family son out by dosing him and screwing his brains up. That kid in Aurora, Colorado, he was in a neuroscience program in college. They asked for volunteers and they screw people up. This is a known fact. They've taken people in the military who thought they were participating in a program on the common cold and screwed them up, dose them and stuff like that. I don't understand why you think it's necessary to get an extra layer of complexity that wasn't really. If they could screw Chapman up, or not Chapman, that's another one, the guy who killed John Lennon, same thing. If they can screw Hinckley up enough to get him to go there and they wanted to get rid of him, why would they need a fake Hinckley? I don't understand. It seems like it just makes it all more complicated. You don't have to worry about him not being a good shot, because he's not really doing the shooting. He just has to be there, But hold on, because of the music. Well, I'll be happy to continue. It's a very interesting conversation. Fred's on the line, and Trump's starting to pull away in Michigan. Kasich, very surprising, and coming in second place. Not good news for Rubio and Cruz at all. And Bernie Sanders holding on in Michigan. Not good news for Hillary Clinton at all either. We'll be right back.
Easy.
All right, good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley, INN War Report Radio. Fred's on the line. Before we go back to Fred, it looks like it's an emergency in Michigan. They got to get that voter fraud machine working out there. Bernie Sanders is beating Hillary Clinton, about 25% of the vote reporting. He's about a point and a half, almost 2 points ahead of Hillary Clinton in Michigan right now. That is not good news for Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, in Michigan, Trump keeps pulling away from Kasich, who's making a surprising. I know this sounds like a horse race. By the way, how'd y'all like that Monty Python election night skit that I played the other night? I hadn't heard that in years. Trump 38% now in Michigan. Kasich second place 27%. Cruz 21%. Little Marco Rubio 9%. Bye Marco. Bye, Marco. He's the most establishment guy of them all. Maybe Kasich, but all right, so there you have it. So let's go back to Fred now. You can be next, by the way, 512-646-1984. So, Fred, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Fred, it just does not make sense to me, your extra layer of complexity. Why would you need a fake Hinckley? If you wanted to get rid of Hinckley, you could cook his brains. Once you get him in jail, no one's going to listen to him. They're going to make it worse for him once he's in jail. You'll get Jolly West to be your psychiatrist like they did with Sirhan and just make it worse. I don't understand why it has to be so complicated. And by the way, let's not forget, George H.W. Bush was the favored candidate by both the establishment and the CIA, which he ran. They illegally, in 1980, had campaign posters in the CIA for George Bush. That's against the law. All right. And he's no longer with us. Klein, the guy's name was Klein, CIA guy, used to be on the talk shows a lot. And he had a beard and stuff. And he said, we were pulling for Trump. No question about it. We were pulling for H.W. Bush. He was our guy. And they were pissed off at Reagan. So it makes perfect sense to me that early in Reagan's term, they could just get him out of the way with a typical operation of theirs, have a patsy all lined up to blame it on, and get their guy in. And fortunately, Ronald Reagan wasn't killed.
Yep. Well, my point is that if the Hinckley family was upset that their son had tried to roll over and expose that family's connection to Intel, the Hinckley family might not have wanted him dead. They might wanted him just taken underground and to get a talking to. Your scenario of making an insane guy go to a crime scene that's going to be something where intel knows what's going on is more difficult than having another guy that looks like him get to the crime scene. So I'm not making it more.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, I think you are. He did not die there. He wasn't killed. And right. if you've got a puppet that you can control, you have him show up. That's what happens. That's what they do. Now, to have the wrong guy show up and then do a switcheroo, have the real Hinckley in a van somewhere and then switch with some fake guy, it's a lot more complicated, I think. They just got him to show up. They programmed him. They got him to show up. He showed up. You know, the Secret Service, everybody did the old Olay like they did with Kennedy. And the guy's allowed to go through. You know, maybe he probably didn't even have a real gun, whatever, or he certainly didn't have one that was loaded. And, they jumped on him. Whoever was trying to kill Reagan didn't do a good job. They missed, and his vital organs, and he survived. You know, but I just don't understand why you need an extra person. What you're challenging is the whole theory of them getting a hopped up puppet to show up on the scene, and I think that runs contra to a lot of stuff. Sirhan Sirhan says he does not remember why he was there, okay? And he was already at the hands of these guys like Jolly West beforehand. And same thing with Chapman. The cops say this guy Chapman, he walks up, he's showing up, hi, he's greeting John Lennon. He pulls out a gun. Who knows who really shot John Lennon? And then Chapman sits down and starts reading Catcher in the Rye. Yep. You know, they can control people to that extent. And I don't know. I mean, to me, if you're going to go that far, it's a lot more complicated. If you want to get rid of the guy's son, just make him crazy in the first place with all the drugs. Then maybe they sent Hinckley to the hospital. Maybe his parents didn't like that he didn't like their politics and thought there was something wrong with him. That's what used to happen in the 50s and the 60s and the early 70s. You know, that you could your parents could put you in the hospital just because of your political beliefs. But anyway, listen, Fred, thank you for calling again. It's been very stimulating for your second time today, but I got another caller on the line that I want to get to before the end of the show, all right?
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thanks, sir. Call back. Okay, let's go to Bill now in Texas. And let's see here. Bill, 1, 2. Oh, here we go. Let's see. 1, 2. There we go. Bill, you're live. How are you doing tonight?
Doing fine. How are you?
Oh, good. It's Bill. How you going? Thanks for calling. What's on your mind tonight, Bill?
Well, I read Roger Stone's new book, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family.
That's what he was supposed to be talking about tonight on the show. How is the book?
It's a great book. I mean, I know a lot about it, but I'm learning a lot from it, so it's well worth the money. But in there, they've got a photograph taken of Reagan's near assassination. It's taken from behind Reagan, pointing towards Hinckley, and above him in an apartment was a man lying on the floor holding something. That was the actual assassin. Also, the doctors, when they took the projectile out of Reagan, they said it was at a 45-degree angle down, so it didn't come from Hinckley or anybody else on the ground. That was the guy, and you got a picture of him in the book, Jeff and the Bush Crime Family. So it's worth seeing that. It doesn't show Hinckley. I can't see him in the photograph, but it does show the man above him lying on the floor at a patio door of the apartment. Also, when they took that projectile out of Reagan, it was so small they had to x-ray him 3 times, couldn't find it, and they finally found it. He didn't even know he was shot at first. They headed back to the White House, and when he moved a certain way, it hurt. So then they swung around and took him to the hospital, getting there after the other people who had been shot were already at the hospital. So it was a very small projectile, a CIA assassination weapon, and they just barely missed killing Reagan.
And that's the way these things go sometimes. You know, that's the way it makes perfect sense to me that the CIA, who was angry with Reagan, wanted their boy Bush to be the president, were rooting for him, pulling for him illegally. It's their modus operandi. They do this all the time. So wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. They can get puppets. They can get people to show up. Like I said, Sirhan. We ought to get his lawyer back on the show. William Pepper here in New York, has been representing Sirhan. We have not heard from him in a while. Maybe I'll get him back on the show. Tell us how that case is going. Really great guy. Really, did you ever see any of his work, Bill Pepper's work? William Pepper?
I've seen some of it. You know, Final Judgment by Michael Collins Piper goes into that, and he gives a good explanation of what happened, how he was shot from behind by the security guard. He says the man's name was Cesar. He's a Filipino.
Right.
The FBI, CIA, and all that. But,
and then it also goes that Robert Kennedy was friends with Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, look that up. You look up RFK and Sharon Tate. And she actually was doing fundraisers for Robert Kennedy in California. And the speculation is that Robert Kennedy told her that he's sandbagging. When he becomes president, he was going to reopen the entire Warren Commission report. And look what happened to Sharon Tate.
That is interesting.
And if that wasn't mind control, I don't know what the hell is. Okay, listen, Bill, call back soon. You waited too long. We got one more call that I'd like to get to before the end of the show, all right?
Sure thing. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, sir. Call back earlier next time. All right, and Roger Stone is going to be on the show. I think it's next week. I'll tell you on Thursday night. It's either Monday or a week from Thursday next week. I think it's Monday. Anyway, let's go now to Tom in Texas. Okay, Tom, great name you got there, buddy. Hello? Let's try this again. 1 second. Okay, Tom, are you there? I don't hear Tom, and he should be live. Yeah. Okay, Tom, we don't hear you, sir. Is your phone on mute, maybe?
No. How is it now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you, sir. Go ahead. We've got about 3-4 minutes left in the show. Go for it. Not even, about 2 minutes.
First of all, Tom, I just wanted to say thanks. Listening to you tonight talking about those experiences you had in Germany when you were a young GI and climbing up in the mountains and all that, God, it brought back a flood of memories to me when I was that age, although I wasn't over there. But just doing things like that, and thanks. You took me down memory lane there for about 10 minutes, and I really enjoyed it tonight.
Thank you very much. And send me an email, Tom, and I'll send you pictures of that amphitheater.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. The other thing is, too, real quickly, I maybe want to call about Trump, but that Hinckley thing, I kind of agree with you in the sense that let Hinckley be there. You don't have to do too much investigating to find a link between Hinckley and the Bushes, and that's sort of like a message to Reagan, like a fish rolled up in the newspaper, the Luke O'Brien call. We can
exactly
anytime we want. So just remember, don't go too far off the track, and you'll be okay. But if you start talking nonsense, next time we're going to be a little bit more accurate, and that'll be it.
I don't know. I think they missed. I think they really wanted to have W in. They had a nut job there. They had it all set. You can't be doing this lone nut thing too often. Otherwise it becomes old hat. But I don't think that was a warning to Reagan. I think they could have given him warnings in other ways. I think they really wanted to kill him.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe they just botched it, and that it should have gone better, and they just they got lucky. He was at the wrong angle. That's my only other argument with Trump would be simply this. Whenever I hear the establishment of some group come completely 100% against somebody, I take notice, and I want to investigate this person.
Exactly. Why do they want me against these people? I want to look into it. Listen, Tom, we're out of time. Call back next show. Looks like Trump's going to take Michigan by more than 10 points. All right, we'll be back on Thursday night with Stephen Kinzer. Stephen Kinzer, great journalist from the New York Times, great author.